Okay, hello, Miss Hartman. My name is Jardia Kale, and I decided to do a conference with my two peers, I guess. It was very random, but it's worked. Halima and Zishan. Did I say that right?
Yep.
And Halima? Okay, so my presentation is basically biology, medicine and its medicinal toll. I decided to go with this topic mainly because my life revolves around biology. All my life, I've always wanted to go into the medical field. I've always wanted to do science. I've loved science all my life. I've also loved math. So I just felt like this was the right thing for me. And so I decided to take up biology pre-med, but as years went on, I decided to drop the pre-med part and I decided to go into nursing. So I added RN and I kept my biology major. So the first three things that we're going to be speaking of within this presentation is the psychological effects of being a biology major as well as being a medical student. How we should be able to enable free tuition for our medical students and how that can impact their life as well as their studies, and the effect of medicine on Black women as well as women altogether. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about the psychological effect on social life, personal life. I decided to do this personally because biology has affected my personal life a lot. A study was conducted at the University of Berkeley for about 790 students. Most of them were taking up STEM programs. It was either in science, technology, math, or engineering, and they wanted to pursue the medical route, whether they wanted to be engineering for any medical reason, or scientists. And 42 to 48% of those students were said to be depressed. A lot of them were said to be exhausted of their studies. They didn't have time to do a lot of things. They felt that they just had a lot of workload. Most students spent a lot of their time studying, preparing for exams, and it seemed as though like when their friends would ask them, oh, you want to go out? It was always like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to study, or I'm sorry, I have this to finish. And that was also my case as well. It also plays a heavy toll on their mental state. When you feel like you're always overworking yourself, especially if you are also a working student, meaning that you have a job, it seems as though you don't really have much of a life. And it seems like they can never really take a break from their studies. They're always working, basically to reach their goals, because everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be rich. So yeah, basically that's part of the psychological toll of biology. So moving on, this is also an extension. Basically this has been said a lot of times. A lot of at least I sometimes feel like that, but it depends on like the area that you're going into. A lot of students feel as though being a biology major or any type of science major, or whether you're in math or engineering or technology, they feel as though that type of major puts in so much more work than, let's say, being a music major or an English major. And a lot of people like to argue that, but in reality, in some ways, depending on how you're looking at it, it's very true. They don't get to experience a lot of the same hardships as other students do. And most of the time, most medical students, especially if you're already in medical school, find themselves staying in, not be able to engage in, physical things like going to a birthday party or a baby shower. Nobody wants to nobody really wants to live a life like that. But when it comes to seeing yourself in a successful state, sometimes you just like push that to the side and you don't really think about all that. So another thing that was really profound that I looked into was that at Stanford University, a lot of the popular majors amongst athletes was human biology. And that took up a huge toll on a lot of the students. It was to the point where a lot of students, would come into class and they would be really tired. They would miss on assignments. They would place themselves in groups knowing that they wouldn't be able to take part or play a role in any of the group activities. Athletes found themselves not being able to balance a lot of things, so they would either switch out of their major or they would have like an academics crisis. Oh crap. I just saw your message. So most athletes also spent most of their student lives pursuing the medical route. So basically they were either going to training or they were in class. They never really could do anything in between. So basically this is one of the reasons why I go into having free tuition. Another thing that really exhausts a lot of students is tuition. You already have a hard workload. You don't really want to think about, oh, I have to pay off this tuition. I have to work even harder so I can get a scholarship to maintain my grades as well as maintain me staying here. So I believe that certain programs in certain medical schools should be free. So in New York University, they announced in 2018 that they were, for their entire biology program and students that were in the medical program, the MD program, we're going to have a full scholarship for all of the current future students in MD programs. And that was like
where's that located? I'm sorry.
New York University.
But don't you have to be a resident?
No. If you had gotten accepted into the university, you got a full scholarship.
And that's happening right now?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I know, right? And then there were also other universities that start following in to that, but many of the students were able to graduate with no debt, making it easier for them to be able to be passionate about what they're doing and be able to pursue the things that they're doing. So it's like you're putting in all this work and you're not paying. So that's like a stress off your shoulders. They didn't have to worry about too much money. Yes, they did still have to pay for their board, but if you were also coming in with financial aid or if you had a refund check, that money already covered your board. So basically you were going into medical school and all that stuff completely free. So in New York University, their goal was basically to help their students feel better. And this was like a step forward to realizing the hardships and difficulties that a lot of students have to go through in college. Tuition can be a huge burden on a lot of students, and it also affects a lot of low-income families and students. Also finds themselves risking their social and personal life. Some students even commit suicide. It's a lot of things, and a lot of people don't really look into that, and they look into the hardships of college and medical school altogether. Mm-hmm. So, most physicians, when they complete their medical school and everything, they don't want to find themselves in debt. They'd rather choose to practice without having to know that most of their money that they worked so hard for is going towards their debt. Nobody wants to finally start their career knowing that that's where all their money is going to go to. So eliminating tuition would also increase higher education for a lot of students, and a lot of students won't have to worry about, if I'm going to be a biology major, how am I going to pay for this? So it would increase the amount of bodies within a college, and it would also increase the amount of professors that they decide to hire within a college, increasing the amount of money. So here, I'm not going to show you guys these. This is something you can look into if you would like, but these are two videos, basically personal experience of two students. One of them is of a girl that's a biology major. She is in her undergraduate year, and another one is a lady who's already a graduate student and she's in medical school. And it basically shows you the firsthand experience of how it is to be a medical student and how hard it is to be able to engage in that. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about the effects of medicine on Black women. So imagine you go through undergraduate school, you finally get through everything, your whole experience. You finally get through medical school. You might have debt, you might not, depending on which route you take. And you finally decide, okay, I'm going to be a doctor. So a survey was conducted with 20,000 U.S. physicians across 29 specialties. Men made an average of 230,000 versus 203,000 for women, which is an 18% difference in the primary care doctors. And this is for women. Specialists made 358,000 to 263,000 against Black doctors, earning 50,000 plus more dollars than any other race, mainly black and brown doctors. So basically, when you look into it, and the thing is, Black women made 100,000 less than Black male doctors and white male doctors. And that's after you've gone through medical school, undergraduate, graduate school, and nobody wants to work so hard to the point where they find themselves not being able to get the credit of how hard they work. You know what I mean? So only 2% of the practicing physicians in the U.S. are Black women. And a lot of women don't want to go into being a doctor, mainly because of the prejudice, the racism, and the wage difference amongst women, men, and ethnicity. Most Black women don't even get to practice in white hospitals as doctors, and most of the time, if you were to compete against, let's say, a Caucasian lady or an Asian lady, the Asian or the white lady would most definitely get the part. Only 34% of medical doctors are even women. 34%. 9.9% of RNs are Black. That's only 9.9% of RNs. And this is a statistic that was presented in 2017. That we did have an increase in the amount of nurses that are going into practice, but still we've only increased to like maybe 2%. And that's still very low. Black women in the medical field make less than white women based on the MedScat 2018 Annual Physicians Compensation Report. And I had to go through and do a lot of research because there were a lot of numbers. But this is the statistic that was consistent. So if you were to look on the side here, this basically shows you the percentage of each race within the medical field, mainly doctors. And if you look on the side, you would see that 75.4% of these people are white. So that's something to think about. And basically, you know, I've been doing my research forever about, you know, my medical field and everything. And I decided I want to be a neonatal nurse practitioner because I know for a fact that it's easy for me to get into that branch in the medical field. And I just felt like it would be an easier route for me. Plus, I love babies. And you know, I just felt like it would be perfect for me. So yes, this is my presentation. I'm happy that you guys are able to join in. Zishan, are you still there? Zishan?
Yes, of course. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, well, yeah, this is basically the end of my presentation. I hope I did good. I'm not sure. Miss Hartman, I hope you like it. And yes, that will conclude it. These are all my cited sources. I made sure to include these. These are really important. This is all the information, my statistics and everything that I got for all my information. And thank you guys for joining. Okay, you guys can talk.
Guys, if you guys have a little bit of time, if you guys stick around, I might as well do mine.
Okay. Do you have any questions or anything? Or are you guys fine?
You did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you so much.